brand new project. That's a project we've seen before. It's the YZ250. I've already started tearing it down. And what we're doing, obviously, is we're going to freshen up our top end. I got this Cylinder Works standard bore kit that came with the Vertex gaskets and a Vertex piston. And additionally, I bought a YZ250 piston. And what I'm going to do with this is still running. It's in kind of a tired state, and I'm going to evaluate this cylinder, but I want this fresh one in there, and I want to send this other one off with a YZ250 piston so that it can be replated and chamfered and all that business. So I have another jug ready for it. And by the way, this is an 03 YZ250, and obviously it's in Supermoto trim. I can fairly quickly get it back into dirt bike trim, and I might do that. But if I do, I'll probably convert it to an 18-inch rear wheel and do kind of some dual sport stuff with it. But for the time being, just to go over what we've done, obviously we removed the tank with the shrouds and all of that. I've got the pipe off, and got the carburetor off. Everything's out of the way here. One thing that kind of makes this thing special is I have the GYTR weighted flywheel on. The thing is I decided I like this setup. I like this bike, and I decided to treat it right and get some brand new fresh components in it. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to go through and do a complete build or whatever. It's going to be kind of like the DRZ big bore build that we just did. And that's kind of what we're doing. I'm not 100% on 2 strokes, but it's half as many strokes as a 4-stroke. So it should be half as much work, right? Anyway, what I gotta do, I've got the Apex cylinder head that I got through BRAD. I have the boys in rad valves, BRAD valves, rad valve on it. And like I said, the Apex cylinder head. And what I've got here is I've got the XC dome in place. And if you're not familiar with that, that is their cross-country dome, and it allows it to have a little bit lower compression. I think that might be kind of hurting me on my wheelie attempts, but it softens how hard the power valve comes on. So I'm a little bit reluctant to do it, but I'm thinking about getting an X or an SX or an MX dome to go in this. I'm going to talk to BRAD and see what he thinks about that. But I've gotten the cylinder head mounting bolts undone. I've just got to get in on the other side and disconnect the power valve, and then I'll be in a position to go ahead and take this top end off. I could take the cylinder head off right now, but that's not really getting me anywhere at this point. And what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate this, and I'll go through that together. I'm going to put this thing back up. I've already washed it, and I've touched it with my dirty hands. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, we're back, and as you can see, we got the head off, and I've got my little baggie here. I've got all of our nuts that attach to the studs, which hold the cylinder head down here, and we have the Apex cylinder head. What I'm doing is I'm removing these studs. You might see that, but I've already removed one here, and I apologize about our lighting situation here, but I've already removed one. And what I've done is I've used the double nut method, and I'm going to go ahead and do that because I want to have a little bit extra clearance when I take this cylinder off. And I'm gonna have to remove these anyway because we're going with a different with the replacement head or jug, excuse me. So I'm using the double nut technique, and I just noticed that my camera is a little bit off kilter. Well, we just got to deal with it at this point. And so this is a 13 millimeter that I ended up having that ends up matching up with the thread, and I'm putting one of them down here on the stud. Let's see, I might have to run that down a little bit. I think that's plenty down enough. I'm going to put this other 13 millimeter down below it for the time being. And I'm just going to hold it by hand on the back side. I hope this is showing up for you. This clutch cable's kind of in the way, but I'm just going to deal with it because I don't want to detach it. So here I am. I've got that nut in place on top of it here, and I'm going to come back with my ratcheting. I might have to come over on this side. Oh geez. And I'm just going to tighten these nuts together. Man, that could be misinterpreted in so many ways. I'm sorry about that. So I'm tightening that down pretty good. And so hopefully if I've done a good enough of a job here, I should be able to come here counterclockwise. Yeah, and I broke this stud loose. I think I did this the last time when I put this YZ250 piston in this setup here. Sounds like there's some sort of migratory fowl outside. I don't know if that's showing up on the microphone, but they are loud. So I should be able to, nope. They like to go out here and graze on these farm fields. And it's January 6th, and I left a Diet Coke and a Big Mac out on January 6th Eve for Papa Trump Claus, and it was gone. It was gone this morning, and he left me a Killdozer scale model on my mantle. I must have been a good patriot this year. All smartassery aside here. Okay, so we got the stud here, and I'm trying to show this on the display here. Let's see, which way is my ratchet here? So I gotta go lefty-loosey on it, and to break these loose, and I apologize for being out of frame there. But see, I got that double nut loosened, and so I'll repeat that step for the remaining 4 studs here, and I'm gonna put those in my bag. So I'm going to be able to keep track of everything and not lose anything here. See? What do you say I show you another one? Why not, right? Maybe I ought to. There we go. That looks a little bit more square. I'll show you another one just for the sake of doing it. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Again, if you're going to use a ratcheting closed-in wrench, don't put it on the bottom because you'll be stuck going one way. The only thing you could do would be tighten it, or the only thing you could do is loosen it, and that won't get you anywhere. So hopefully that's showing up good for you. I should be able to just do it by hand. If I remember correctly, I put a little bit of anti-seize on these studs when I torqued them back down, because these do have a torque value on them, and I'll use the same method to accomplish the torque value when I put this back together. So again, I'm tightening these together. You don't have to get crazy. So I got the ratchet here, backed it right off. It's coming right out. Yeah, so a little bit of anti-seize, just like on your spark plugs, goes a long way when you're reassembling anything with studs. Because you got one kind of metal coming into contact with another one. Let's see here. I don't know if that's showing up or not. I better be a good cameraman here and show you. And drop the stud on the floor. Oh, geez. There we go. Breathing heavily. All right, so that's 3 down, and I've got 3 to go. All right, we're back, and we got all of our studs out. And I've also got our last stud here, and I left the nuts on the side in which I was removing. Why did I do that? I think one side has little longer threads on it than the other. Some of them can be maybe the same. Sounds like somebody's target shooting outside. That's a lot of freedom. Anyway, I left that on there, and that way I'll be able to compare all of the other nuts, or excuse me, studs, when I reassemble them. What we're going to do now is take the jug off. Real quick, what I did was I went ahead and loosened, just broke these loose on our rad valve here, just so I don't have to mess with wrestling the thing. But anyway, I'm going to take our nuts off of here, and then I'm going to take the jug off, and I thought that'd be kind of cool for you guys to see. So, and I'm also going to put those in the bag with everything else. And I'm trying not to get in the way of the camera, but way she goes sometimes, boys. It's the way of the road. But I've kind of staged this, and for what it's worth, I did leave, some of you might have noticed, I left this stud in over on the other side. The other side came out with the, I say stud, it's a dowel pin. There's a small dowel pin. There's a small dowel pin here on either side to help locate the head more perfectly, because we have a sealing surface here maintained by O-rings. But we'll get to that at some point. But anyway, you don't want to lose track of those. So what I did here is I took it from the jug and I put it on the cylinder head. And I'm going to clean that sucker up, so don't fret. We'll get there. So I've got my two 14 millimeter base. Whoa, easy camera. Sorry guys, we're on a little ride today. Anyway, I'm putting those in the same bag as the studs and the head nuts. And now my neighbor seems to be yelling outside. I really wish they would have listened to me and stopped driving through my yard. It's a real dick thing to do. Anyway, we're making progress. And I've got the power valve attachment detached, and inside of that area is where the access to this other base stud is. That's all right. So I got that one out. And let me see here. I've got my dead blow hammer here, and I'm just gonna give it a couple little mild whacks. It's moving around and it's loose, but I don't want it hanging on there. And I think if I remembered the tip when I did this by Lund MX, Clint Lund. I think I lubed my base gasket, so it might not be a chore to get off. And as a disclaimer, building some suspense, I've already looked in the exhaust port, or the exhaust part here. This piston's tired. It's tired. Okay. I did lube the base gasket. Come on, Jug. I'll just go ahead and advance this engine a little bit. There we go. I should be able to get it off now. Come on, guys. Don't make me look like a dummy. There we go. Oh. That's right. I remember now. The CDI is in the way. I gotta slide it off of its post. I've not done a lot of two-stroke stuff, so I'm gonna come over here on this side and get this thing out of the way. That's what I'm running into. I was just so excited to show you guys. There we go. I'm just gonna kind of dangle that sucker. And I've already got our dowel pin, so I'm gonna put this one in our bag. So I should be able to get that travel now to get this thing. There we go. Now we're free. And you're gonna look at the cylinder real time with me. Okay, our other base dowel pin is on the cases. So we're gonna look at this cylinder, and it's not gonna be the best view. We've got some notable scoring in there. Let me get my other, do I have another flashlight? I do, all right, good. And we got some scoring. So it's time. This thing was getting tired. And I'm just gonna set this thing over here. I'm gonna send this thing to Meta Lakes. I think it's there. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your business. But I'm gonna send it to them, and that way I'll have one. I'm gonna turn this off real quick. I'm gonna get us in the position to where we can look at this piston a little better. Okay, we're gonna zoom in a little bit. And you can just kind of see the scoring that we have over here. Some stuff happened. And notably right here. But the rings obviously were getting tired. And all right, so they're still locked in there. Our bottom one. What's our bottom one? Yeah. Yeah, it's where it's supposed to be, but stuff did happen. I pushed her a little too far. So I wanted to share that with you. I'm going to remove the piston, and we were going to check our rod bearing and see what status it has. Because if it's in bad shape, that's going to change the whole dynamic of what we're going to do here. We'll find out and you'll see. All right, we're over here on the bench, and what we got here is our Vertex piston. Let's see, I got my box right here. And this is a 66.35 millimeter diameter piston, and this is a 66.4 millimeter bore. And we did a little bit of math over here. I'll just show you this with the rings. It's a 2-ring piston. I'll show you that in a second. And we're looking at ring in gap calculations. So per inch, they want 0.006 to 0.009 inches per inch of bore. So that figured out to being 2.6184 inches is the width, is the diameter of our bore. So I took that times the 0.006 inches, and that figures out to be like 15 thousandths, like between 15 thousandths and 16 thousandths. And on the 0.009 times our 2.6184, that figures out to be in about 23 thousandths. Well, our actual measure on here we go, this ring ended up being 17 thousandths. And for a stockish engine, they favor to be on the tighter end of spectrum. So we're good on this. And let me see here. I'm going to one hand this here. We've got our piston right here. It's sitting on this clean towel right here. And I've lubed it up with some of this two-stroke, just straight two-stroke oil. And I used it to evenly place here. I'm just looking through my camera here. So I'm just demonstration purposes. I've placed the ring in the correct position using the piston. So we're at 17 thousandths for this ring. I'm not having to remove any material. Let's see if we can see that gap. See, there's the gap right there. I used my feeler gauges over here. I guess I can show you that real quick. Whoa. That's what I got here. I got my, can you see it? Can you see it? 17 thousandths, or 0.482 millimeters. Let me see if I can show you this here. Yeah. So we've got a nice, it's a nice even drag. I'm having a hard time showing that. I'm not a cameraman here, but I got a nice even drag through there. So I'm going to do the same thing for this other ring. And there's a, let's see if I can show it here. Whoa. It might be kind of difficult. That might be on the other side, actually. Yeah, there's a marking over here. It's kind of tough. See the T there? That's the top side faces up here. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to lube up this ring and put it in place. And then what we're going to do is place, I'm going to go ahead and put on the one side of the piston the snap ring or the circlip, and then on the other side I'm going to put this piston on from the clutch side because it's easier to access. I'll show you out there. We have removed the piston. I'll show that in a minute here. I just wanted to go inside because it was cold. But I'm going to do the same thing on this. Top ring faces up. Then I'll put the rings on after I put our snap ring on the one side. And we'll be well on our way to putting this bad boy together. The main challenge is I'm going to have to move our power valve from, I'm going to mess on my desk, which means I'm busy. I'm going to move my power valve from that over to this one. I've not messed with one of those before, but it's relatively simple. I've got the kit and the seals for that. So this is going to be a brand new top end, and I'm just super excited about it. I'm super excited about it, guys. Anyway, we'll see you in a minute. All right, we're back in the indoor shop here. It's cold outside. We got our original head or jug here. And the reason why I haven't really shared up to this point what we've done, I removed the power valve and all that mechanism and from this and switched it over to this one. I've never done that before. And so there's a little bit to it. I've got this all enclosed in here, the whole apparatus and whatnot. But that was kind of a process. I also transferred over the rad valve. It's just a pretty basic thing there. I inspected it, made sure there was no chips or anything in the reeds. They're in great shape. But this whole piece over here, I have a seal that I had to install on the shaft of it because there's one for it. But for the most part, sorry about the camera there, we got a successful operation. There was a little bit of aligning that I needed to do, but we're ready to install the piston onto the connecting rod, which I will check it on film, but I've already done it, and it's got no up and down play on the rod, just a little bit of side to side, which is fine. So we're looking really good. Oh, I was just noticing here, you can see the reeds down here on this new brand spanking new cylinder, which I'm excited about. But basically all I've got to do is remove the old gasket and put the piston on, and we will set this bad boy down on that piston, and then we'll put our studs in, and we'll have our head installed, and we'll be ready to put everything else back together. So I'm really excited about it. And yeah. So next up, we'll be out there at the bike. All right. We're back in the garage again. And for what it's worth, I'm going to show you that I wanted to show that, you know, we got the piston off. And yeah, we may have showed that on the video, but this piston, here's the exhaust side. This piston was tired. Okay, you can see the scoring. There's a few spots here I can feel with my fingernail. Not a lot, but it's very clear these rings were getting worn in. And some of that might have been, you know, due to, you know, some downshifting at the kart track and whatnot, like a 4-stroke. Be that as it may, I ran this thing for a few years since I put this Pro Light piston, and we're going with a Vertex piston. But the main thing I wanted to do is show, I've got these rags here, and I've got them posted on these studs, and I've got a rag on each side of the connecting rod. But the main thing I want to show is that I'm checking for up and down play on the connecting rod, because there's pressed on to the crankshaft. It's a 2-part crankshaft. It's like this wrist pin bearing, these needle bearings in there, and they have a cage and everything. And when they start going bad, they start creating, there's play on the rod that it sits on, much like this rod, but it's a big rod. And when there's play on it, that means it's time to do a bottom end. But, you know, I could reuse these here, but I was just trying to illustrate the same sort of thing is happening on this bottom end. And you may even be able to see or hear it. A lot of people think, oh man, my bottom end's bad. This has got some side to side play. That's fine. What we're looking for is a straight up and down pull on that connecting rod. There's no play in that, and that's why I feel really good about it. And I can get really aggressive with it and try to put some inertia on it, but there is no inertia on it. So what I've got here, I've got the piston, and real quick here, we can see it. You might be able to not see it, but this is the front side of the piston here. And so, because there's an arrow on it, so that will face forward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place this thing on here. But what I'm going to do first here is show you how I'm going to go about that. In this little cap here of the 2-stroke oil, I've had this new needle bearing soaking in that. But what I'm going to do, and that it's just 2-stroke premix. Or not premix, it's just 2-stroke oil. And I'm going to put that on the connecting rod here to pre-lube that. What I'm also going to do, one real quick here, here's our new rod for our There we go. And I'm putting some premix, or not premix, oil, some of the premix two-stroke oil on that. And I'm staging that right there. Oh yeah. And I'm also, let's see here. Down here I've got my circlip. I'm going to put that next to it as well. And then also I'm going to take some of that two-stroke oil and get that down in this piston real good on where that journal is going to go through there. And I've already done it, and I might even do it one more time. I'm going to go slick this thing down with some extra oil, and I'll put some extra oil on the cylinder when it comes time to put it down on there. The other thing I want to describe here, there we go. The other thing I want to describe here is that I've also cleaned the base of the old base gasket, and it came off in pieces, but we're not going to have that problem again. Set our piston. I'm going to just hang on to the piston, because what I'm going to do with our new gasket, which is setting down here on a clean towel, I'm going to put some grease down. Clint Lund MX, he does a lot of big bore two strokes. He showed me this hack, and he used it at least on the two strokes. I'll have to get back with him and ask him if he does it on 4-stroke paper base gasket. But basically, the idea isn't to be able to reuse it. It's just to be able to just take it off easily and in one piece when it comes time to service the top end. So I'm going to coat the base. I'm actually going to coat that gasket on both sides with a light amount of grease, and then I'll put it in place once we have this piston on there in place. And you might not be able to see it just yet, but I've put our circlip on this side because due to this cable that I don't want to undo, it's just going to be in the way to do this one. So I'm going to put the circlip in from that side. So real quick, I'm just going to place this needle bearing in here, which again has been, or this bearing cage here in place. I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to put this piston on, and I may or may not show me putting the circlip in. Let's see here. I'm making sure that I've got my piston facing the correct direction. Okay. And you can see through this, so it's nice to be able to do that. Just gotta get this thing started. I mean, the clearances are very nominal. Let's see here. Yeah, so I have it. I can feel it from the inside of the piston here, and it's just a matter of getting that aligned up just right on the connecting rod. I don't do a lot of this two-stroke stuff. Oh, we got it started. Oh yeah. Okay, so I have the journal put in there, and I'm just going to gently let that sit there. And this is going to be this is always the part that nobody shows you. But these things, there are not a set of pliers that I found that work great for it. It's just you either figure it out or you don't. I've got all this extra oil. I'm going to set this circlip down. I've got all this extra oil on my hands. And it's important to get as much of that off as I possibly can for this part of the process, because this can be one of the more frustrating things. And I think I left my magic screwdriver. Did I? My magic screwdriver. Nope, it's down here. I'm going to set that over here on my clean paper towel. And the main thing is getting this thing into place. So I'm going to clean it off as well. Because this can, I mean, seriously, this can be one of the things that you can spend a few minutes on or a few hours. It can end up being the bane of your existence. I'm just going to double check here. Yeah. All right. And then our last thing that we'll do once we get the jug into place is we'll clean our cylinder head. And you may not be able to see me. I suppose I can move you over here. I'll move you over here so you can watch me struggle. If not, if I don't show you this, if you don't see this part of the video, it's because it took me a minute. Let's see if we can get this in frame. And I apologize ahead of time for how dark it is in here. Let's see, will you be able to see it? I think you'll be able to see it from there. And I'll probably be in the way here. But we got this paper towel down here. So that's the key, one of the key things is keeping it from coming into contact. Well, if I drop this thing, if I drop this circlip, it could end up down in the crankcase, and that is the last thing we want. So, I apologize for the lack of lighting here. I'm just kind of checking our thing. Last thing I want to do also is to gouge the outside of this piston. But I'm just using the edge of this screwdriver to kind of put a little bit of force on this ring, on this circlip, to stuff it in where it goes, and holy moly, there was one part of it seating, and I think that was just the other part. It's never, ever gone this smoothly for me. Oh, yep. Okay. And here's the other thing, little hack that I use. I use my little DeWalt light here, or it's a light, but sweet. I've never been able to do it that easily, but I'll show you here in just a second. I just would like to run the edge of this to make sure that it's in the groove where it's supposed to be. Oh, I'm so pleased about this. Oh yeah, so I still have to push it in a little bit more. So if you listen carefully, you should be able to hear it click into place. Oh, I'm so pleased with this. Excuse me. you only get one chance to do this right. So yeah, I gotta lever this on just a little bit more. But I'm gonna do that off camera. It's basically in place, so I'm really pleased about it. I'm gonna stop worrying about you guys, but it's just you gotta get it down in the groove. All right, we're gonna try to put this jug on, and I'm gonna talk last. I'm gonna get it done first and talk next, because this is the part where you really screw up, and we don't want to screw up. We want to do the opposite of screw up. We want success. All right, I got her in place here. It took a little bit because it's been a while since I've done this, and when I did do this last on the 2-stroke, that was on that kind of tired cylinder. But it's kind of a stressful thing because you got to keep those rings. I guess I can show you in this sad piston here. The piston rings here have to be kept in their certain slot that they're supposed to be in on the gap. So to do that, you just got to make sure they're lined up. Of course, this is moved around, but there's a little pin where they belong. Let's see if I can find this one. Yeah, there it is right there. So it's on its pin, and that allows that ring to compress on the piston and it stay in a certain place so it doesn't get hung up in one of the ports. So it stays home right there, and that's what we did there. Yeah, this being the intake side, and then this one, I don't know why it's doing clear over here, but we've took it off, so it should be over here around, yeah, right there. So that's probably about 7 o'clock if we're looking at the bottom, and this one's at about 5 o'clock or so, 4:30, 5 o'clock. Sorry, I got out of range there. But I got it in place, and then the cylinder slid right down on it, and I'm really relieved because I don't have a lot of experience with this. It's not a 4-stroke, so I'm just going to let it set here for right now. I'm going to put a covering on it, and we're going to continue tomorrow. All right, we're back, and as you can see, we got a complete cylinder head and cylinder. And we got our head, like I said, on there. And I've just followed that reverse procedure of reinstalling the studs. And like I said, I was going to use some anti-seize. So I just put a little bit of anti-seize on there and put brand new O-rings on there on the head. And just like that. And we torqued these down to 18 foot-pounds and 30 foot-pounds. And we connected our power valve on there, and I went through that normal procedure of checking to make sure it actuates, and it's doing a great job. So we've just got a few things to do. Put our carburetor back on. I'm going to give it a quick clean and put our pipe on, put our cylinder head connection here, our frame bolts, and I have to relocate a few things. Oh, my light gave out on me. It's time to charge it. No big deal. But we've got to do those things. And I think what we'll do, there we go, got another light here. The next thing that we need to do is take and, again, get our hoses, our radiator hoses reinstalled and get coolant in. And I want to clean up a little bit before we put everything back together. So I want to clean that up, which I probably should have done before I disassembled, but what are you going to do? But I've got to do those things. And then I think what we'll do is I might do a brief overview of what I've done before we go and do our initial start. But that's where we're at right now. And for what it's worth, let me show you here. I had been using, I'm going to be judged for this one. I had been using our Lucas semi-synthetic stuff that I could get at O'Reilly's. But I wanted a little bit higher level protection. So I'm going to be moving to AMSOIL Dominator Racing 2-stroke oil. And I think we're going to mix up a tank of that before we do start it up. It's on its way, but I think we'll mix a tank of that up, and I might go a little bit rich with the oil. I'm not sure. I think I might just stick with it and just run it out. But I'm kind of excited to share all the first startup with you guys. So we'll do a few heat cycles, and I think we'll pull the tank off again. I think one of the procedures calls for us to go back and retorque the cylinder head, and I think these base nuts down, and we'll do that. We'll follow the procedure, and I think we'll be done from then on. If there's any problems, I'll show that, and we'll have to go back and fix it. Again, I'm pretty new with 2-stroke, so if you follow my Instagram, you'll know that I had put a piston in this one. I think it's been 5 or 6 years ago, not long after I'd got this bike. But we'll see what happens. All right, we've reassembled everything, and now it's time for the start. And we're going to do a heat cycle on it. I'm kind of excited and a little bit nervous. Anything could happen. You can see, maybe you might be able to see, in the background we have snow on the ground. And anything could happen. So we'll see. I've put the choke on, I've got our fuel turned on. We'll see what she does. Couple priming kicks. There's one. There's two. So I'm going to pay attention to this. Got to vary my RPM. That concludes the YZ250 rebuild. I'm going to do 3 heat cycles, and then I'm going to take it for a ride when I get a chance for about 15 minutes.